Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is July 31st, about 9:30, and the weather is already at 80 degrees, and it feels like 92 with the humidity. We received about 1.7 inches of rain last night, which I feel is pretty accurate because I trimmed some of the pine trees around the accurate backyard weather sensor that was kind of probably blocking some of the rainfall. So I feel like that's pretty accurate because the mosquitoes are out of control this morning, which is why I ended up putting my veil on. Usually it's to get protection from the bees, but no, this time it's to basically get some protection from the mosquitoes. All right, so hey, this is going to be my first solo inspection since being back home for the last 2 weeks, and if you can see that on the ground right there, that is the hive butler. So I decided to bring that out with me because 2 weeks ago, July 15th, when I got into the hives with Paul for the first time after returning home, quite a few of the hives had some very nice fully capped frames of honey, which typically I would have pulled them and harvested them, but I decided not to because I knew I was going to bring the hives back over to my bee yard about a week or two later, and with quite a few birthdays in July and family visiting since I returned home, I wasn't too sure when I was going to be able to get into the hives, so I decided to leave the honey for the bees, because typically around mid to late July, or the second half of July, eastern North Carolina goes through a dearth to where food sources just stop blooming and the bees don't have any food really. So I decided to leave the honey in the hives for the bees in case the area did go through a dearth and I wasn't able to get into them or feed them for a few weeks, which actually is the case. So now that I'm trying to get back into a usual hive routine inspection, brought the hive butler out here. If I have some full frames of honey to harvest, I'm gonna pull them today. I got everything set up in the garage, so no delays on that end from pulling the frames of honey to harvesting them. And if not, well, I'll just have to put everything back, and I have some feed whipped up so I can provide them some food stores here. So let's get into the hives and see what they are up to. And if we walk over there real quick, I'll show a few things I just want to point out beforehand. So Paul and I were out here about a week ago to do some quick inspections and to do a mite wash, which that video should be up on the channel already. But this very first hive right here, I might have a number on top, I'm not sure. But we ended up marking a somewhat newly mated queen, or at least an unmarked queen that had mated. The previous queen, according to Paul, was marked, and we found an open queen cell. So they swarmed at some point, which kind of made sense because there wasn't a lot of bee activity on the front porch. But this is what I wanted to show you. This is the most activity I've seen from this hive in the last 2 weeks, or the last week maybe. So that queen is doing a good job. The second thing I want to show y'all, and this is the last because everything else looks good based off front porch activity, bees hanging out. Old number 2 here has not had a lot of activity in the last few days, so I'll be checking them. Hopefully they didn't swarm and just maybe they absconded too, because there is zero activity on this hive, so got to figure that out today. But the rest, I'm just going to pop the tops, take a look at the supers, and anything that is harvestable honey wise, I'll probably end up pulling it today. So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, this hive right here, this is a nice sign. I was worried about them, but when Paul and I inspected them, found the mated queen, marked her, and now I'm seeing this much activity, so that makes me feel good. This does not make me feel good. All right, already down here in the third hive, which is number 1. The first 2, I think that's 5 and 6. No real food stores in the top box. I'm gonna pull this center frame and just kind of see what it looks like. I'm hoping the bottom medium. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, all right, so there we go. I'm gonna pull this one, use the hive butler, made a complete mess because that's just how the bees decided to cap that honey. But yeah, the next frame there, so there's at least 2 or 3 frames here that are worth harvesting. So that's about 10 pounds. All right, got the hive butler moved over here. The bees were drawing out that frame pretty fat. All right, down here at the hive in the 4th position, which is swarm 18 for the year. Same thing, everybody. Just gonna pop the top, give them some smoke. Give them a second to figure out what's going on, and take a quick look at the top box and figure out if we have any honey we can pull. And I'm gonna go with a no. I think Paul just gave this colony the top, yeah, so they can have space and work it, which is fine. I'll end up pulling 2 of the deep frames out of the bottom box, adding a in-hive division board feeder, and then feeding them later today. All right, down here at hive number 3, they have a nice gathering of bees on the front porch, and they have a medium. I don't remember if they had any food stores from earlier this week when Paul and I got into the hives. So let's just pop the top and figure out what they got going on. That is a nice amount of bees on top of the inner cover. Oh, we might have a winner. Alright, let's see what we got here. I'm gonna go with probably this one. I think half of this box might be harvestable. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's a nice frame. I guess in the next frame too, yeah, check that out. That's a nice one. Yeah, that's nice. Look at that. Ooh, check this next one. It's looking pretty. I'm on the second to last frame. This is a nice one to harvest. Half of this box had capped frames. The other half of the frames are about 50% capped, maybe just a little more. So I'm gonna leave them in the hive and come back next weekend and see if they've continued to bring in nectar and cap those frames. And let's take a look at the very last frame. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's nice. All right, quick look at number 3 after we got done. They definitely have been tearing me up. I keep getting poked by stingers right around my wrist. But yeah, that was a pretty strong hive. Half of that super had honey that was ready to harvest. So I took what I can. I'll check in a week. I will not feed them. I'll check in a week to see if they've filled in and capped the center 5 frames, and if so, it's another 15 pounds, give or take. But let's move on to number 6. Save this one for last. This is the one that was extra feisty. You can see it's a deep with 2 mediums, probably a healthy population of bees. So this will be the last one. I'm concerned with checking honey stores, and then I'll get into number 2 real quick, like I said in the intro, figure out what's going on with them because they don't have any bees at the entrance. All right, over here in number 6, just pop the top. Going a little heavy on the smoke because I do remember this hive's temperament last week. But it looks like we have 1, maybe 2 frames we can pull. So let's see how this goes. Yeah, that's right. Paul was running them as 9 frames because they can store more honey, but now that the honey flow is pretty much done, and this is my last attempt at pulling any frames, I'm gonna add a frame and get them back to a 10 frame because I typically use the top boxes. Yeah, that's nice. To build up for the fall and winter. All right, I just took the top box off, number 6. Second frame looks like it might have some food stores, and yeah, say that's a winner. I wouldn't take the honey if I wasn't about to feed them today, this afternoon. So they will have a direct and immediate food store or food source. This next frame looks nice too. Oh, that's pretty. Yeah, this is a nice frame too. Sorry, bees. Oop. Actually, this outside frame, that's something Paul and I noticed when we got into the hives, I think mid-July. The first time I inspected the hives with them, we noticed the outside frames actually had some pretty nice food stores, which is the opposite of what the textbooks say. The textbooks tell you the bees build from the center out, but it's not what we noticed this year. All right, that does it for number 6. I was able to get 4 nice frames out of that colony. And like I said a few times, I'm going to get into number 2, see what's going on with them. I'm not going to mess with the last one because Paul and I was just out here last week, and we know they have a newly marked and mated queen. That's my concern. But first, I'm going to run the hive butler back to the house and then come out and see what's up with number 2. All right, well, I couldn't help myself. I have not gone to the house to drop off the hive butler. I wanted to pop the top on number 2. So they have bees. Mainly I wanted to see if they had any honey to harvest, but I saw a wax moth crawling around on this frame. It's not looking good. All right, I just wanted to see if I could capture that wax moth for y'all, but it's gone. Yeah, the bottom looks empty, so they may have completely absconded. I'll figure out what's going on with them here in a little bit. All right, back over at number 2, and if y'all can tell or not, there are practically no bees in this colony, or these boxes, which is exactly what I was guessing based off the front entrance activity. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. All right, just took the top box off, and much to my surprise, there is actually a decent, not healthy, but a decent population of bees. I don't know if that's coming up on camera over here on the first 2 to 3 frames. Paul did treat them with ApiGuard, so let's get into them a little further and see what's going on. Not surprised at all. Look at that. Greater, lesser wax moth, and you can clearly see a wax moth trail right there. So maybe they just didn't have enough bees and the wax moths moved in. This is the very center frame, first frame I pulled, and that's what I found. Oh man, that's frustrating. All right, yeah, this hive, thinking a few things. One, there's like maybe 2 frames of bees. I don't see any eggs, no brood, no cap brood, so they may have been queenless for quite some time. And with that, as the field bees die off or they swarmed, populations dropped and the wax moths moved in, which, you know, mature hatched wax moths crawling around on the bottom board on the frame. So that's my conclusion, that the wax moths basically had a lot to do with killing this hive off. I think I'm gonna move these into a nuke and maybe grab a frame from one of the healthier hives that has maybe 2 frames. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. All right, let me move some equipment around and we'll see how that goes. I just took the bottom box off, and if you can see that or not, we got the bees actually killing a wax moth, but we got wax moths there, there's another one. So unfortunately, it's one of those things with keeping bees. You also keep a whole bunch of other critters, so let me figure out some sort of plan here. All right, folks, that does it for me. Unfortunately, with hive number 2, I think it's a goner, so I'm gonna do the savage thing and just let the bees rob out whatever food stores they have in there. They have a lot of pollen stores, but no evidence of the queen, no eggs, no cap brood, no larva, nothing. So I'm thinking the wax moths moved in and they may have swarmed or vice versa, but the remaining bees in this colony, they're not going to survive on their own. So maybe they'll find a home in another hive. And just a quick look at some of the top boxes I removed. I don't remember from which hives, probably these middle 2 or 3, but those colonies just had more room than they needed, which isn't necessarily a good thing. So I'm just gonna let the bees rob out whatever food source again that these boxes have, and I'll get back out here later today after I harvest some honey, add some division board feeders, remove some frames, actually in the opposite order, remove some frames and then add some division board feeders, and then feed the hives. And I'm going to continue to feed them as heavy as possible because, well, let's walk back down here again. Some of the frames, the bees did not build any wax on, so I've done this in the past, this time of year. Just feed them heavy. They have an immediate food source in the hive with the division board feeders, and they will start drawing wax on any foundations that need it. And my idea, my goal, is to provide the adequate space going into the winter so the bees can use the medium top box as an extension of the brood chamber. So that does it for this week. Thanks for tuning back in, everybody. I appreciate all the subscribers that stuck around, especially during my 6 to 12 month absence, give or take. So now that I'm back, you know, expect some more videos. Please like, share, and subscribe, and goal's still to get to 10,000. We've been hovering around 1,080 subscribers for quite some time, and I think 80% of our views or something are from unsubscribed folks. So if you're watching the channel, just do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. I would love to see our YouTube channel have the same success our Instagram page has had over the last few years. This past 6 months, I think we went from like 12,000 to 21,000, but the most substantial jump I remember is about a year or two ago. We were hovering right around 1,000, and then within months we hit 10,000, which I thought was pretty cool. So anyway, that's one of the goals, to get to 10,000 subscribers, and of course 4,000 watch hours a year, so we can start monetizing some stuff. And it's really just a curiosity to see, once we're able to monetize, what that looks like, and if that can actually help sustain our beekeeping operation. It probably won't, because we're small time, we're a small channel, but I don't know. I guess I'll switch gears and become a little more optimistic. So anyway, let's take a quick look at the front of the entrances. Hopefully that's not a problem. I'm hoping more bees are hatching and emerging from this colony. Like I said in the intro, this is the most activity I've seen, because come to find out, this past week they have a new queen, and yeah, we'll see how things go. I'm actually going to move these hives down this way to get them off, or not the hives but the boxes on top, to get them away from the hives, because the last thing I want to do is create an issue, which is robbing, which is kind of what that looks like again, or is why I'm saying that. So let me do that, and then I'll call it a day. All right, hey, thanks again for watching, everybody. Cole's Farm here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Check us out on Instagram. Our Facebook page is still around, even though it got hacked by some people from the country of Georgia, which, you know, I definitely don't appreciate, because we lost access to that around mid-August last year. So in about 2 weeks, it'll be a full year since we've been able to do anything with Facebook, but the page is still there. If you're watching this and you message us through Facebook Messenger, or if you go to buy a jar of honey through Facebook and you don't get a response from us, that's why. I just wanted to take the time to explain that. So I'm still trying to regain access, but it doesn't look promising. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. It is getting hot, as it's probably close to 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock. Sun has remained behind the clouds, but still, between the heat and the humidity, heat index is definitely up there. All right, tune back in about a week or two for another look at the colonies. See y'all.